Hi, I'm Danny, and this will be my review of Avengers Endgame, which I saw yesterday. And first of all, I want to say that I'm a big fan of Marvel, and I've been ever since I was a kid, so this film was special to me. I remember when I was like 10 years old, I tried myself to send in my own hero so I could get published by Stan Lee and Marvel and just read my own superhero comic. Sadly, it's not that great. He was called Serpento. It's a pretty horrible storyline about a scientist in Australia. Yeah, let's forget about that and move on. I just want to say this, I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, and it isn't because I don't want to see it, it's because I haven't had the time nor the money to see it. I didn't have the time to go to see it in the cinema, and I couldn't find it online, so if they have been referencing Captain Marvel in Endgame, I wouldn't know about it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, for the people who live under a rock, Avengers Endgame is like the finale of this 11-year era of Marvel movies, which all together ends in this film. So if you haven't seen Infinity War, let's just say that a lot of stuff happened in the end, and they are now trying to correct what happened in the last movie in this. I won't say anything more than that because I think everyone knows what happened. Okay, so let's just jump into the review, I suppose. So I'll start with the positives, and there's a lot to be happy with from a Marvel fanboy perspective or a film nerd's perspective. And first of all, I can say the special effects are amazing as always. There's really nothing to be criticized about the special effects, to be honest. Perhaps, yeah, it's off a bit here and there, and you can still tell that it's special effects, but so can you in any other movie, so I can't really criticize just Avengers Endgame for this. What's also great about this movie from just any person's perspective is that really anyone can enjoy this film. My father, who has not been following the Marvel era that heavily and just seen like Avengers and Spider-Man and Iron Man and not much else, could really follow along in the story and understood the characters and their inner conflicts and their problems and their goals and their characters. So I think for someone who hasn't seen the films before this one, they can really enjoy it either way and appreciate the hard work that's been put into this end product for so many years. What makes this film different though from other Marvel films is that this is probably the most serious and deep Marvel film so far. There isn't very much humor. Like the first half hour, I was just waiting for a joke, and it isn't that it feels too serious. It works for the overall story. I'm just saying that it is different from the rest. And I like that because I perhaps would not have appreciated this movie as much as I did if they would have been joking as much as they do in other films. Even in Infinity War, they joke a lot and there's a lot of humor in it and comedy, even though it ends with, yeah, you know how it ends. But this film is much more serious, and it's a nice change of pace for a Marvel film. So what makes this film more deeper and more emotional than the rest is probably because we've built up to this moment for 11 years, and now when we've seen the rest of the films, like Thor for example, who lost all of his family and went from a cocky god to a mess, and I think that it really makes the characters and also the story and the perhaps not dilemma, but the conflict of this film and the climax even stronger than it would have been in perhaps any other Avengers film. So the film is pretty great, and it's very cinematic, and there are some great shots, like one in the end with a certain character who stands alone, and it almost looks like a painting. But on the other hand, there are some shots that I wasn't a big fan of, like there's not a lot of, but there's some shaky cam in the beginning that I just felt unnecessary, and you just felt a bit motion sick when they start to shake the camera unnecessarily and too much. And perhaps the biggest criticism I have is that the first 20 minutes felt a bit jumpy and the pace was a bit off. But I understand why it is, because it is trying to cram in as much epilogue from the last movie in this, so a prologue for this film, in as short time as possible, so the rest of the film doesn't need to be cut to a shorter length, so they can put as much of that in the end as they want to. And while the first 20 minutes is off pace, it is still okay, it is still enjoyable. But perhaps another 10 minutes or something wouldn't have hurt the film either. So let's move on to the spoiler talk, and let's firstly say that they made the time travel stuff pretty good. Even my father, again, who isn't a big fan of time travel movies or anything like that, he always complains on Back to the Future how it is unlogical how they do what they do. But in this film I enjoyed it, and so did he, and he's again not a big fan of time travel films. And of course they made a lot of references to Back to the Future and other films where the So where was I? Alright, the time travel stuff. Yeah, it was great, it was fun. Perhaps nothing really that new or original, but still solid. It was solid. And of course, let's move to the big emotional stuff about this movie. And that is, of course, that sure, everyone that died in the last film came back, but some of the characters that lived through the last film died in this one. And let's just go through them all. We first have Black Widow and her sacrifice to get the Soul Stone, and that I didn't have a big emotional connection to her character, to be honest. And while it was a bit sad, I wasn't really that bothered by it. But then we had Iron Man, who sacrificed himself, and that's when I burst into tears, to be honest. I cried like a child, because Iron Man has been with me just like Wolverine was since I was a kid, and I've grown up with these stories and these movies and these characters, both in the films but also in the comics, and I've played the games. I've been a huge Marvel fan. Of course not the biggest, but still it's been very close to my heart for many years, and therefore when Iron Man died and his last moments, it felt like the end of an era, which it is, but it still felt like a part of my childhood died with that character, and therefore perhaps him, even though some might find him arrogant and a bit full of himself, I still find him charming, and he's still been a hero that me and many others have looked up to and dreamed about. And yeah, you think you understand what I mean. And speaking of crying, I almost burst into tears again when all the characters reunited, because that was such an epic moment where they all, one after one, just joins in and helps Thor and Cap and Iron Man, who've been beat and almost defeated by Thanos at that point. And it was just such a feel-good moment, and it was like a like a dream from my childhood coming true, seeing all these characters together on the big screen. And I don't know why, but I just felt my tears, like feeling, I don't know how to say it in English, but I just got a bit sad. But happy as well. I'm a weird man. English? I don't know. I can't speak. I'm not sure how I will survive this week when all my childhood heroes just dies, and then Game of Thrones, where no one has died yet, but I mean, we all know it's coming. This will be a tough year for Danny over here, and I am not sure I will survive past this month even. And speaking of characters not returning, we have Captain America as well, and I was a bit surprised by his ending, but it was a positive surprise, because that was probably the best way to end his storyline, just like Iron Man's death was the best way to end his, because Cap has always been a fish out of water, and this was the best way to let him live the life that he always wanted to live. And therefore it was a sweet, very bittersweet moment when he appeared on that bench, old and weak and a bit weird with the CGI, but it was pretty good. But it was a bit off, just a little tiny bit off. Just to summarize, I think all the major characters like Hawkeye, Black Widow, Iron Man and Captain America all got the best ending, a worthy ending for those characters who have been with us so long. And I'm looking forward, because I think both Thor and the Hulk, I'm sorry, my camera just stopped recording, but I think I was saying that I'm not sure if the Hulk and Thor will continue or not, but it seems like they will, and when they finally stop doing Marvel movies, I hope they will have as a worthy ending as the rest did. So while this might have been the end of an era, it is also the beginning of a new era, and a new era of Marvel films. And as I've been so excited about this past 11 years and all the films that have come out, as a fan, I'm still excited for what's to come. And I don't know how Marvel does it, and I'm sure everyone is not in the same headspace as me, but I'm still as excited as I was 11 years ago, and it's amazing how they make me that excited time after time, because I don't know how. I don't know how they do it. I just get so childishly excited about every film year after year, and hopefully that will continue for years to come. My rating for this film is perhaps not as objective as it is subjective, because it was very enjoyable, and that is strictly my opinion, and I won't really go into the nitty-gritty film nerdy stuff like cinematography and audio and so on and so forth, because some films is just meant to be enjoyed like this, and I was so heavily emotionally attached to this film that giving it anything less would be kind of weird. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, And it's not because of how it is a work of art in the sense of filmmaking, but a work of art perhaps in the sense of storytelling, and how it also is pretty historical in its way to make a series out of films, and it's the first. It is the first of its kind, and therefore it should be applauded for that too. And lastly, I just want to say a quick thank you, I suppose. It's perhaps a bit weird, but a thank you to all the actors, all the directors, and everyone on the crew who made these films a reality. A thank you to Kevin Feige, who made all the comics and all these characters come together on the big screen. And lastly, of course, Stan Lee, who've been an inspiration for me through my childhood. Like I said, I myself have made superheroes, one even that I've tried to get published for Marvel themselves, and he's still inspiring me to write my own stories and my own characters and get them told in the best way they can be told. And therefore I will forever be grateful for all the entertainment and all the laughs and all the tears he's given me. So thank you, Stan Lee. And that was my review of Avengers Endgame. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and please share if you found this review. I'm an idiot. I was going to say if you found this review good, but I mean I just screwed that up by saying that this. I'm dumb. Anyway, be safe.